Hi, my name is Nico Giacino. I am the executive chef at Lux Appliance Studio, and today we're going to be making one of my favorite Italian dishes. It's called pasta aglio e olio. It's a really simple dish. It's a nice dish to fill the void in your belly when you're feeling hungry. It's got tons of flavor and it's super simple to make. With that said, we're gonna be working on the Thermador Freedom Induction Cooktop today. And basically this induction cooktop is my favorite induction cooktop, first of all. Reason being is because we're able to actually move our pots and pans anywhere on the surface, giving us the freedom to introduce and take off new pans if we want to, being able to move pans when we need to during our cooking process, and allowing the surface to actually recognize where the pot is moving to and continuing that cooking mode. Really beneficial to a chef that's actually really trying to include a whole bunch of stuff into their daily cooking routine. Gives you tons of accessibilities and is really easy to use. Before I actually start, I'm actually gonna get my water going. So over here on my touch screen, I'm able to slide this over here to a mode called Boost. And Boost essentially is gonna take surrounding inductors that are not active, and it's gonna basically rob them of their energy to give the pot that I'm using right now a surge and power, which is gonna ultimately allow me to boil water a lot quicker. We do wanna salt our water because Italians believe that whenever you're cooking pasta, you wanna make sure that the water that it's cooked in is relatively similar to the taste of the sea. So while that's boiling, or getting to a boil, we're gonna start some of our cutting process. And here I just have a very simple shallot that I've already peeled off the skin. I'm going to start by cutting it in half, keeping the root intact. Very important to keep your root intact whenever you're trying to do a dice. And the reason being is because the root actually holds the entire onion together. It keeps all those layers together. When you actually take out the root, when you go to split an onion or try to dice it, it actually ends up making the onion fall apart. So just a quick little tip. And for this, whenever I dice onions, I like to go horizontally first, and then I'll go with my vertical cuts. And the reason being is that if you go vertical first and then try to go horizontal, typically it splits the onion. And then when you try to bring the onion back together and make your dice, you're gonna have mismatched shapes. So I just find going horizontal first and then vertical is always the best way to do it. Just like that, and then we're gonna cut these guys. They also say a clean chef is a good chef, so try to make sure that your station is always nice and organized. Now we have some garlic here. And with garlic, I've already removed just the top where the core would be. And essentially, I'm just gonna slice this very thinly, and then I'm going to go into a rock and chop, which is gonna give me a mince. Key importance whenever you're cooking, you guys might notice this, is I'm always trying to keep my 3 prominent fingers in the front as my guide for while I'm cutting. And I'm running my blade against my knuckle, which is allowing me to basically figure out the thickness of my cuts. With the rock and chop, we're essentially placing our palm flat on the knife. The reason being is if your knife ever slips, your hand's flat, so you actually won't end up cutting yourself. We're just mincing this garlic, nice, smaller than a dice. We want it to basically almost resemble kind of like a mush. So now the garlic is minced, okay? To my liking, I'm happy with that. We're just gonna take all that off. So over here, we have a link of chorizo sausage. It has tons of flavor. It's got a nice little kick of spice into it. There's some really nice smokiness that comes out of chorizo sausage. And so I thought that it would be a nice way to add a little boost of flavor into our dish. And I'm actually not gonna use the casing, so I'm gonna just do a little slit down the middle, which removes the exterior of the casing. And then I just want to break the chorizo up very roughly with my knife, so I can tell that the pan is getting hot. We have a little bit of water in there, it's starting to bubble. So I'm just going to go ahead and add the chorizo. I don't know if you can see this over here, but we got the water already up to a boil, which is awesome, which means that we're ready to go with the spaghetti. Now I'm using regular spaghetti. You can always use linguine. We're going to keep it classic, go with spaghetti. There's a little trick. If you take the spaghetti in one hand and kind of just wrap your finger and your thumb around it, and then take your other hand and wrap your other finger and your thumb around it and kind of do a twist motion, you'll get it so it kind of spins, and then when you place it into the pot, you let go, and it kind of just folds around the entire pan. While the bottom part cooks, the entire part of the spaghetti will actually fall into the pot and continue the cooking process, which is pretty cool. And we're just basically looking to cook the chorizo first in the pan. That's gonna kind of give us our first level of flavor in the pan. Continue cooking the chorizo down and give it its first stir. You just wanna break it up with a spoon. So kind of like almost punching it down a little bit as we're going through this. You find that your pan is dry. By dry, I mean that there's not a lot of moisture content in the pan. Things tend to burn a little bit, so there's nothing wrong with adding a little bit of oil if you want to. I just have some simple olive oil right now. And that will basically just ensure that our meat doesn't actually start to burn. It still gets that nice caramelization that we're looking for. Over here, the spaghetti's pretty much almost in there. As you can see, I made a little bit of a mess. While you're cooking, you're always gonna make messes, but the beautiful thing about induction is you can literally just move things around. And you can actually take your mess away while you're cooking. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but check this out. So over here, I have a small little pot. This is my sweet potato puree. I actually have this sitting on the lowest temperature that I have on my surface, which is 1. And the benefit to that is it's low enough in temperature that it's actually not gonna burn, scorch, or reduce this puree anymore. I am very happy where this puree is, and I don't wanna continue to cook it, so very important to have that fluctuation in power when it comes to your cooking process. Really giving you ultimate freedom to really work with your product a little bit nicer. And the beautiful thing is I can still slide it around my surface, and I'm not worried about scratching or scorching, which is really nice. So I'm happy where the chorizo is there. Okay, just very simple. Just a little bit of color on there, not too much. You can see how much moisture is still left in the meat, which is what I'm looking for. I'm just gonna quickly remove all that out of the pan. We're gonna fold that back into the dish once I'm getting closer to finish. We'll put the chorizo aside over here. Now working with the exact same pan, notice I didn't wash it, I didn't do anything with it. And the reason being is, again, going back to the idea that we want to retain all the flavor that's in that pan. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of olive oil back into the pan, make sure that we're lubricating it, keeping that moisture content there. We're gonna add in some onions and the garlic that I chopped earlier. Make sure you use up everything you got in that bowl. Don't waste anything. The beautiful thing about this is when you cook onions and when you cook garlic, first of all, the aroma that comes off it is my favorite. But onions have like this acidity to them that actually helps aiding in that process of removing the brown bits off your pan. So you're gonna notice that the onions over the cooking process are gonna actually start to slowly take on the color of chorizo. They might have like a little bit of a red tint to them. So another little trick with onions, if you want to sweat them out a little bit more, you want to bring a little bit more depth and flavor, you want to release a little bit more of the sugar. Salt is always a great addition to that. Salt, like we were talking, that chorizo process is a curing aid, so it actually helps pull moisture from things. So by adding salt to the pan, I'm now actually going to be pulling more of the moisture out of the onions. We're going to caramelize more of those sugars. We're going to try to sweat the onions and the garlic down for about 5 or 6 minutes. Just really trying to release all the aroma and flavor in there. And then in our next addition, we're gonna add my favorite second ingredient, which is butter. Butter makes everything better. Okay, and butter is, it's always a great component to add to dishes. It releases some really beautiful flavor. It allows there to be like this velvety smooth kind of texture to your dishes. Over here I have some chili flakes. Okay, this is optional. If you're not a fan of spice, you don't need to do this. But it's typically a traditional spice to add into this dish. I like it spicy, so I'm gonna add a little bit more. You can say about a teaspoon or so if you want. I put about 2. We're just gonna let that cook into the onions and the garlic. Again, because there's fat in there, the chili flakes will actually start to release their aroma as well into the butter, which will just give it an overall nice depth and spice. Okay, we're almost there. Over here, we have 34 seconds left on our pot. So this is gonna turn off very quickly. And then once that's turned off, we're gonna transfer the pasta into the pan. We're actually gonna add a little bit of the pasta water as well. It has some starch in it, which actually helps us thicken any sauce that will come from this dish. And most people will oil their pasta after they're done cooking because they have so much fat in oil in this pan already. I don't need to do that. Maybe we're just gonna saute this spaghetti in with the onions. There's chili flakes in there. Using some of that pasta water like I was talking about earlier. So I can leave that. I'm gonna fold back in that chorizo that we had seared earlier. Place that back in the pan. Now this is where all the love starts to happen, okay? So microplane, if you don't already have one, probably one of my favorite tools in the kitchen shed to use when we're cooking. In terms of how much Parmesan I'm adding, I don't know. I just go until I feel like I have too much in there. Okay, we're just gonna fold this in now. You can already see because of the Parmesan, because of the butter, we have like this really nice creamy glare to the spaghetti. It smells really nice. And then to finish this dish, this is a classic thing to do. So I'm just gonna use probably about a quarter cup. And what I like to do is kind of just almost roll it up and then fold it over so everything stays intact. Okay, and now I have a nice starting point for my cut. So we're just gonna mince it nice. We already have lots of depths of feel in terms of the chorizo, in terms of the butter, in terms of the chili flake. That's all gonna give us a really nice home kind of style flavor. The parsley is just gonna kind of lighten everything up. And it's also gonna give us a really nice color. And that pretty much concludes the dish. What I like to always do is finish it off with just a little bit of pepper. Again, just bring in another note of flavor. It's really nice. So over here to kind of start the dish, I have this sweet potato puree, which I roasted the sweet potatoes until it got really dark. And then I just finished this off in a pot of cream, added a touch of salt. And this I'm just gonna spread across like this. You can get as glitzy and glam with this as you want to, but being that it's a classic, simple dish, I don't wanna go too crazy. Now we'll bring this up over top and kind of just let it release. Okay, and then don't forget about all that chorizo that we had sauteed in here. Make sure we get some extra on top. Okay, and there you have the dish. If you wanted to, which I'm going to anyways, you can finish off with just a little bit more Parmesan. And that is one of my favorite Italian dishes from the northern parts of Italy. Pasta, aglio, e olio.